Hello, welcome to my kitchen again. So, I'm gonna go on doing some videos about my shamanic practices. Yeah, I'm very much a beginner. I'm no shaman. I'm French. This is my real name, the title of the channel. Yeah, I live in France. Lately, I did a video, I haven't put it online yet actually, about how to do a ceremony, and I thought that maybe it would be interesting and helpful to do a video about what are the kind of things that I may do during a ceremony. I took some notes. It's going to be like a bit at random. It's going to be like a bit scattered all over the place, and I'm going to digress, and it's going to be too long. So first things first. The good question, a good question to ask is who is I? You know, I say, what do I do during ceremonies? Recently, I wrote quite a long article about spirit possession as a working technique. I will put down a link below, down in the description of the video. So I explain things quite, in details in this article. So if you want to know really more about it, just go read the article. It's all in English, and if you're French, you may translate it into French, but I believe that if you're listening to this video, you don't need translating anyway. Yeah, who is I? It's been nearly 3 years now that I asked, during what I then called a session, I asked if there was a guide who could, well, help me on my path, a spirit guide who could, yeah, help me, bring me some teachings and guidance. And I got answered in a funny way. I asked for it clearly, but I didn't expect to be answered that way. A spirit guide came and started working through me, through my body, and I got kind of pushed aside. It's also called being ridden, and I think it's the term that fits me the most. Being overshadowed, or there's the word embodiment, spirit embodiment, or incorporation. I quite like the idea of, yeah, being ridden, and the body is being ridden by someone else, someone other than me, a spirit other than this little self that speaks now in this video. And so now it's been nearly 3 years that this spirit comes and works through me during ceremonies. It's quite a common, I mean to say that it's quite a common working technique in indigenous traditions, in indigenous shamanic traditions. It's really quite taboo and ignored in the West. There's a phenomena called sanitizing shamanism that takes place in the West, and so Westerners either ignore, either refuse to consider that possession can be a part of the work, that it can happen, and that it's not necessarily bad. No, we're not supposed to be Christians, so we're supposed to be animist, and in animism, possession is sometimes good, beneficent, positive. And for me, it's totally positive. I'm learning a lot. I'm taught a lot through this way. So when I say what I do during a ceremony, sometimes it's me working, especially on personal matters. when I deal with, when I try to work on harmonizing a place, especially my home, when I try to harmonize a relationship with someone in my family, I try to harmonize my share of the relationship. Even if the person didn't ask me anything, even if they're not there, I still can still work on my share of the relationship and try to harmonize things as at the best, yeah, as well as I can. So when I say I work, sometimes it's me working on personal matters, and sometimes it's my guide when it comes to more, bigger stuff, really larger than me, like national or international issues. When it comes to harmonizing a place, a sacred place in the distance, like hundreds of kilometers away, for instance. And I noticed that since I dared doing this sort of coming out about this working technique, the relationship that I have with this guide seems to be evolving for the best, so I'm gonna go on speaking about it for now, I guess. Yeah, the spirit, the relationship is evolving. We have a relationship actually, and it's evolving for the best. Yeah, she seems to become more gentle, maybe, kind of nicer, and kind of coming to maybe even learn some of my own ways, being more proper, more educated, learning some modern manners. She feels quite old, actually. She feels like a very old spirit. So that was the first start, the first thing to start with. Who is speaking when I say I? Who is working when I say I? I say I for for simplicity, because it's still my body doing whatever I'm doing during ceremonies, so it's still I. It's more simple to speak of it that way. I always then next topic. I always set up a program for like a menu for the ceremony, some things that I wish to investigate, based on what I discovered eventually during the previous ceremony. Yeah, I move on, from one ceremony to the next. It's always like a work in progress, and I try to figure some things out during a ceremony, and then I discover things, and I realize that I encounter resistances, and either I can go past them or not. I have to go back to them. So there's a program, and there's basically my main goal is to work a bit like an environmentalist, an environmental or ecology activist in the spirit world. I aim at trying to figure why we live in such a messy world, and such a sick world, and what can I do about it? I'm pretty concerned, like some of my main concerns are the sky, how much, light pollution. May the night be the night. It's one of my prayers. It's been so for a year or two, maybe 2 years, approximately. May the night be the night. Light pollution is a big issue for all life forms on Earth. And then, so many airplanes. Not anymore, actually, at the moment. The traffic up there kind of dropped. It's a good thing, I believe, because it generates a lot of pollution. All of this to be like grasshoppers, we're like grasshoppers. Tourism, mass tourism, it's disaster. On an environmental level, it's really not good, I believe. So this is the kind of thing that I work on, international stuff that I call international because, it's not just in my village, it's worldwide that I would like that I would like the the situation to get better. And it's just one example amongst a few others. I'm gonna try to keep that really as short as possible. Then Psychopump Work. I had heard of the word before, but I didn't understand it, and I got to learn more about it in a video by Nicholas Breeze-Wood, and I understood that, hey, this is one of the things that I do during ceremonies sometimes. Basically, it's about learning to cooperate with land spirits who can take care of the dead and help them pass. Some deceased spirits of deceased. Some of the dead are kind of lost and trapped and disturbed and pissed and not passing over. Some seem to be able to do that on their own or be guided appropriately, and some just linger and create troubles because they are either pissed, either scared, either immature, disturbed. The first dead, not the first one that I encountered, but the first that I helped pass was the spirit of, I believe, it was the spirit of an aborted fetus of my family. And I had no clue that this, so how come? I mean, I was never taught that. How can that sort of thing happen? How can you end up, encountering such a spirit? Well, me, I was just wishing to bless the mother of that spirit, someone of my family. I was just trying to harmonize my relationship with that person, so I said her name, and I blessed her, and all of a sudden, boom, there was this spirit kind of in my space, in my face, and very pissed, very disturbed, very pissed, very immature. Fetus, how do you reason a baby? It was my first time, and it was like hard. I had already encountered, so to speak, other family members, dead family members, like grandmothers or grandfathers or people that I know the name of, and I had spent an entire evening blessing them and asking for their blessing and giving them news. They love being given news. And some of them didn't answer when I spoke their name, as if they had really passed beyond God knows where. And some answered and were still around, it seems, and responsive. And yeah, it was quite challenging already, but in a good way and not in a too challenging way. There I was facing this spirit, disturbed spirit, and I didn't know what to do because I didn't know that I would have to do anything to defend myself from a dead, because it really felt like an attack, actually. He was kind of aggressive and probably causing lots of disturbances in the family, actually. And so at first I ended up given him a name. It felt more like a male, because he hadn't been baptized, basically, so baptized, given a name. And I asked him to please bless, his mother, his brother, etc. And I asked him to watch me as, sometimes I get angry, but I control my anger. I don't let it spread out like that and cause mess. And I asked him, I sent him to the lavender fields in southern France, because I had this little bottle of lavender essential oil and it felt very soothing and quietening. So I sent the spirit, I said, just go there and I'll take care of you later, I'll find a way. I didn't know what else to do. And then I arrived here in this house and I discovered that there's a spirit, a ground spirit, that is willing to do psychopump work, help the dead pass to where they should go, and I believe it's the melting heart of the planet. That is like a vortex, and that where the dead, the light at the end of the tunnel. And this is where the dead either pass over to a different world, or get reincarnated, or get dissolved into light very peacefully, or whatever. And this land spirit just below my house basically is willing to do the work with me and cooperate. And she appeared to me as a big mama T-Rex, a big red mama T-Rex, benevolent one, not demonic at all, even though she looks like, whoa, a big beast like that, fierce, but a big mama, caring and loving, compassionate. And so this spirit of a fetus, an aborted fetus, was taken care of here. Hopefully. For the best. Who knows, It feels better. What else can I do? Healing, basically. Massage. So that sort of thing. When I have a consultant, a volunteer consultant, very rarely, but it happened a few times. It can be a pet. Pets sometimes volunteer. And yeah, massage, no twisting, and like I'm no chiropractor, so it's laying on of hands. I just lay my hand on a particular spot. It can be a scar. Scars are really great to work on. I mean, it's really important to work on scars and make sure that everything healed properly. And sometimes, often I believe, when you get surgery, when you get a serious injury and a cut, it can be a broken bone, it can be... Sometimes I believe that the meridians don't heal quite properly. So it looks like it's okay, but not really on an energetic level. And the laying on of hands works good. It's about kind of breathing into your hand and through your hand into the scar, into the injured place. I don't know exactly how it works, but it kind of help put things back into shape. Helps, it contributes to, enhancing healing. And it can be about, healing can be about calling the spirit that I call Hila. In my worldview, in my own personal cosmology, I'm building a personal cosmology as I go through the information gathered by my guide and brought back to me by my guide, may I say. So there's this spirit called Hila, that is the ruling spirit of healing, natural healing. You know, when you cut yourself, you get a little scratch, something not too serious, it heals by itself. And that's the work of the spirit that I call Hila, natural healing. And it's about, it can be about calling Hila to a person, sending Hila to a person, wishing for Hila to take care of that person. I don't do spells, so I don't spell on a person, I don't put spells, healing spells or whatever. I just wish or pray or ask, make requests. And so I learned to cooperate with spirits, and when it comes to Hila, well, I call Hila and I ask, would you please go to that person and take care of that person? No spells. Please don't do spells. I believe that spells work like light pollution. Even the good ones, the positive ones, the protection spells, the whatever, I believe they work like, they behave like light pollution in your face, or in the face of the person that you wish to protect or do whatever. Light pollution is no good. And then you cannot see reality properly. If you put a protection spell on your house or on yourself or on the loved one, they won't see reality properly. It will be like a time loop. It will be like a bubble of messed up space, basically. So I pray, I call, I wish, I don't do spells. Then another thing that I may do is communication with ancestors and harmonizing relationships with ancestors. It can be the ones that I know the names of, such as grandparents, as I mentioned before. Something like, like 3 years ago, at the end of 2017, 3 years and a half ago, nearly, I did an entire evening dedicated to ancestors and asking for their help about a particular situation in the family. And I spent the entire evening, blessing them and asking for their blessing, basically. That's the kind of thing that I can do. With some ancestors, it was funny because when I spoke the name of some of my grandfathers, grandmothers, or great-grandmothers, some responded, and some were like, not there to be found. So it can be about harmonizing relationships with ancestors and ancestors' relationships with one another. Like, I asked one of my great-grandmothers to please bless her mother because she was actually kind of cursing at her and it was not right. I ended up asking all of them, please bless one another, Please bless one another or we will ever get out of this mess. Then, given news. Ancestors, they like to be given news of what happens in our life. Oh, I moved house. I moved from this place, and here I am in my new home. Please bless this home. Or hey, I got married. Hey, I got a child. Or hey, this person died. They like to be given news, it seems, the ancestors. And it can be about making alliances. One of the oddest encounters so far that I experienced was quite recent too. About 2 months ago, I encountered what looked like very primitive humans, ancestors. Wise ones, some may call them. Um, when I say primitive, I mean really primitive, like they had no language, and I struggled to understand what they meant. And they basically taught me, that their way to communicate is mainly through the heart space, sharing heart space. It was amazing, and quite scary at the beginning, because how do you communicate with creatures that have no words? So I had to ask for help to another ally to translate, help me understand. And they basically asked me, hey, would you like some allies? Like, we can volunteer for that. Yeah, I was, and I'm still looking for allies to cooperate and help me work for the greater good, serve life. Um, and yeah, that's the kind of encounter primitive humans. Most people, when they say ancestors, they mean the ones they know the names of, or eventually some Vikings, 1,000 years ago. But do they really realize that ancestors mean even bacterias and primitive humans like Australopithecus, like, before Homo sapiens, those ones. Whoa, what a trip. Um, then another thing that I may come to do is harmonizing places, such as my house, of course. Um, uh, Blessing the house is important. Lately I worked on the wood stove, because it's a new wood stove, and it's been kind of not cared very well by, the people who brought it from all the way from Italia. Actually, it's an Italian wood stove, and the transportation was a bit rough. I think it was kind of not very happy with the way it got. I mean, it's metal. It's a big piece of metal, and metal gets charged, so it kind of get infused with the mood of the persons around, and if the mood of the persons who brought it all the way from Italia to here was kind of like, whoa, what a heavy piece of shit, because it's pretty heavy. So it kind of got all not so happy with its situation, and I kind of had to bless it to make it feel better, so that I may feel better around it. Um, there's a truck passing by. And it can be about blessing places of power, so to speak. I really don't like this word, actually. I'm quite bothered by the fact that in the shamanic community everybody is so obsessed with power. Seriously, I believe that shamanism should be about cooperation, diplomacy, weaving better relationships, not about control. I think that it adds up to the sickness of the situation if you are into, searching for control, controlling spirits. I mean, it's as if you were speaking to me about controlling your neighbors. Do you try and control your neighbors? So why would you want to control spirits? It's quite sick, I believe. I'm sorry, but in my opinion, shamanism shouldn't be about control. It should be about cooperation, first and foremost. Control of the self, stoicism and discipline. Control of the self, yeah, control of the anger, control of diplomacy is about control, controlling yourself and not calling people names and all of that. But controlling spirits, honestly. I think it's quite sick. Sorry. So it can be about doing some blessing work, blessing places of power, sacred places, such as here in France we have, for instance, Notre Dame in Paris, which is, in my vocabulary, in my cosmology, I call it a svastika, the entity or energy chakra, that's in the ground. Basically, it's a ground spirit kind of, and it's been covered with piles of, in my opinion, those so-called sacred geometry, sacred architecture are not that healthy, really, for the place. It's more about appropriation of the energy than really helping it radiate through to everybody. Sorry again. I don't like pyramids, for instance. So it can be about blessing those places of power and trying to help them breathe better. It can be places of power like mundane places of power, like le Palais de l'Élysée here in France, the place where our president, French president, works and lives, or l'Assemblée nationale, the National Assembly, where deputies work. It can be about blessing those places and trying to put some light into there. It can be, there's le Mont Saint-Michel in France. There is even Bibracte. It's about, 20 kilometers from here. It's an ancient Gaulish town, and I believe that it's a nice, powerful place, actually. It's possible to ask them for their blessings. It's possible to ask them to bless the house. Bless me, please bless me, be blessed and please bless me. Exchange blessings with those sacred places, such as Bibracte, le Mont Saint-Michel, Notre Dame in Paris. Chomolungma, the so-called Mount Everest, is a powerful place. It can be prayed to, you can ask for blessings to Chomolungma. And blessing those places, like places of mundane power, like the White House. If you're American, why not? Try it out. Blessing those places may help kind of cleaning up their energy, which may be kind of heavy, kind of. Then, last but not least, if you have no request, because you're a beginner, because you have no consultant, you wish to practice but you don't know how because you have nobody asking anything to you, so maybe you're not entitled to, authorized to do anything because nobody is asking anything. It's often said in the shamanic world, in the energy workers community, that sort of communities, if you have no request, then you shouldn't do anything. Take care of your own traumas, and don't bother, about the world. Mind your own business, basically, because it's bad to do anything without request, without having been asked for it. If you have a garden and you see your rose bush is doing bad, it's losing its flowers, it's losing its leaves, it's sick. You have a rose bush that you really like and it's dying, basically, it's sick. Are you going to wait for your rose bush to call for help before you really try to do something about it, help it out? Do you wait for your roses to speak up and ask for healing? And, think of it. Do you wait for elephants to come to your door and ask you, hey, could you help us? We're about to disappear. They're busy disappearing. The bees are busy disappearing. The insects are busy disappearing. The birds are busy disappearing. Do you think that they're going to come to your door and knock and say, hey, could you please help us? That's first what I think of it, please. Something that I found very useful was to claim my share and to claim sovereignty. And when I claim my share, I claim also not only my share of resources, but my share of responsibility. We're all responsible of at least a little part of this mess, of this worldwide mess. We all have a share. And we have a share of, when we have trouble with someone, our relationship becomes really troublesome. Well, we are entitled to do something about it, because relationships are always a 50-50 thing. We all have a share of, own a share of the relationships we have with our family members, for instance. So we are entitled to try and harmonize our share. So we have a share of responsibility in this worldwide mess, and this is how, I believe, we are entitled to try and do something about it. For French citizens, we all possess a little bit of l'Assemblée nationale, le Palais de l'Élysée, just like all Americans own a little share of the White House. So I believe they're all entitled to bless the White House, at least do that, and bring some light on those places, and try to, clean up. There could be spells on those places, like really curses. I'm serious. There could, do you think that a country can go to war and destroy another country, and then the people of this other country are gonna stay mute about it? There are kinds of shamanic practitioners all over the world. There are people who pray all over the world, and I believe that some can curse very seriously and spell in a very bad way, because they know how to do it. And they can send curses and spells to other countries, places of powers, mundane powers. And then, basically shit piles up, because nobody's taking care of it, because, it's none of my business. I haven't been called to do any healing on this particular place or this other one, and so I won't do anything. It's none of my business. Of course it's your business. It's all of our business. Look at the world, how it goes. We are all into this, it's our planet. You live on this planet, it's your planet, So of course you should be concerned about what's going on and trying to do something about it, in my opinion. That's about it for now. I think that I've been far enough for now. Bye.